Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. This is the Maverick News Channel. We are the Freedom Reporters.
And hello, I'm your co-host, Brendan Kennedy. It's good to be here. Happy Thursday, everybody. How are you today, Rick Walker?
I'm okay, Brendan. Many things to talk about tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the upcoming Rolling Thunder biker rally planned for this weekend in Ottawa. We're going to talk about Canadian politicians declaring the conflict in Ukraine a genocide. We're going to talk about the media spinning information to make it look like Russia is poised, locked and loaded, and ready to bomb the United Kingdom. And probably talk about a bunch of other stuff tonight, too. So I guess, yeah, am I okay? I don't know. Welcome to Thursday. Got anything else?
Well, Biden is seemingly about to set up a Ministry of Truth with the Department of Homeland Security.
What does that mean?
So they're going to appoint somebody the head of misinformation and disinformation. And so it's going to lead to more censorship in the United States and the government choosing what is okay to talk about and what is not okay to talk about.
Right. Why do you think they're doing that?
Well, because Canada's doing it, so America might as well hop on the party.
It's because Elon Musk is buying Twitter. That's why.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if this is something they've had in the works for a while.
Oh, no doubt. But, yeah, the timing is because Elon Musk is buying Twitter.
Yeah, that's
why. I wouldn't recommend everybody just start running back to Twitter. That whole thing still needs to shake down, and it's not really clear how it's going to wind up. So I'm not as eager to start cheerleading for all of that as everybody else. And I'm concerned about the impact it's actually going to have in the longer term. And we can get into all of that when we're in the course of the broadcast. You want to start with that stuff, or do you want where are we going to start tonight?
Well, should we start with Parliament? Because I think that story is...
Do you have anything queued up so we can see exactly what happened?
Yeah, I have it queued up.
Did this happen during question period? Because I'm not sure exactly when it happened.
This happened today. It happened before question period. So I scanned question period looking for it, but I was able to find the clip.
Okay.
It's only a minute and 22 seconds.
All right, let's let her rip, and then we'll comment on it.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. That, given that there is clear and ample evidence of systematic and massive war crimes and crimes against humanity being committed against the people of Ukraine by the armed forces of the Russian Federation, directed by President Vladimir Putin and others within the Russian parliament, and B, the crimes committed by the armed forces of the Russian Federation include mass atrocities in the invaded and occupied Ukrainian territories, systematic instances of willful killing of Ukrainian civilians and the desecration of corpses, forcible transfer of Ukrainian children to the Russian territory, torture and the imposition of life conditions causing grave suffering, widespread instances of physical harm, mental harm, and rape. The House recognize that the Russian Federation is committing acts of genocide against the Ukrainian people.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Motion is carried.
There you have it.
Welcome to Thursday.
What are your thoughts
Do
on that?
you want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, sure. Let me step on the landmine, right?
Oh, I'll step on the landmine if you want me to. I don't care. It's just you look like you have a lot in your head.
Yeah, I do. I'm so tired of these virtue signaling politicians who change definitions, who use words as weapons, who are the true spreaders of misinformation and propaganda and have hidden agendas. And I'm really tired of politicians, bureaucrats, and others who just want to go to war and guide us there, funnel us there, pretending that they're on a righteous path. What just happened there? It throws kerosene on a fire that's already out of control. And it's not accurate. What is a genocide? I suppose, first of all, let's define genocide. Okay? So you can, and I think that there are various definitions. And we ran some material with lawyer Alan Dershowitz about 2 or 3 weeks ago, in which he laid it out in a very convincing and I think learned way, illustrating that what is happening in Ukraine does not meet the definition of a genocide, even though some politicians have been throwing that word around. I don't like it. It's inflammatory. It's not accurate. And I think that when you do that, it waters down the true genocides that we've seen in the past. It misleads people. And it just serves to continue the escalation of the conflict over there. Because here's how I would define genocide. And I don't really give a crap what Google says, quite honestly, because they'll change. I'm pretty sure they have recently changed the definition of genocide as you see it online.
Yeah.
A genocide is like the Holocaust, or what we've seen in the past in places like Rwanda, where you target a very specific group of people based generally on maybe religion or race, and you set about trying to exterminate them, wipe them off the face of the planet because you hate them so much that you can't stand to see their race survive, or their religion. And those would be the two main criteria for targeting a specific group of people. Targeting them for what? For extermination. That's a genocide. It's like we don't want even a single person from this group to survive. We're going to set about trying to exterminate them all. What's happening in Ukraine is not a genocide. What's happening in Ukraine as a war. It was essentially a civil war that it was raging since about 2014. Russia was asked to intervene by two of the areas that wanted independence. Russia said okay. And we know that there are other reasons for Russia invading, right, Ukraine. It's because NATO kept pushing further and further in. And in fact, sort of turned Ukraine into a second-tier NATO state by training troops, by arming them. Anyway, and when Russia did go in, and I'm not excusing Russia for doing what they did, Ukraine is still a sovereign state, even though the United States orchestrated a soft coup in 2014 to kick a Russian-friendly president out and replaced that president with a person who is friendly and pro-West, pro-American, pro-NATO. So when Russia did finally go in, they did not go in hard. Their military tactics were actually soft, as we saw and heard from experts like Scott Ritter, who we had on the program. And we'll probably have to ask Scott to come back on because he's much more knowledgeable than I am.
Or me.
And he's absolutely an authority on the subject. And there are others, whether it's Professor John Mearsheimer, who you can find lectures from online dating way back to like 2005, where he's talking about stuff like this, about the push that NATO has had on. And he's been consistent in talking about all of this. Anyway, the point is, Russia did not go into Ukraine with the intent of exterminating all of the people. And there's a lot of propaganda on both sides that we've seen. So when you start throwing a word like genocide around, it's dangerous. Why? Well, if this is truly a genocide, then morally, the politicians here would argue, we have an obligation to escalate, ramp up, and do whatever we can to protect the people of Ukraine and prevent the extermination of the people of Ukraine. And the people of Ukraine, like which people? All the people? Or is it just the Nazis? Or is it the people who are not Nazis? Or is it the people that Zelensky was bombing for the past 8 years, killing 16,000 people in those areas that were seeking independence from Ukraine? Are those the people we're supposed to be protecting? Does the Canadian public even understand the nuances here? Do they know what the differences are between those areas and the other areas in Ukraine, controlled right now by, well, you know, the Zelensky forces?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we talking about? What is the? They didn't even define genocide, really, other than to say that.
Here's a list of bad stuff. Here's a list of bad stuff that's happening over there.
There's a war on. There's a war on. So let's just call it a genocide, because that's the main tactic they use all the time. These crazy left-wing socialist, fascio, communist politicians that we have in this country. That's what they do all the time. They go to the extreme to describe everything. To the absolute extreme. Stephen Harper was Hitler. You think I'm exaggerating? Go back, look at some CBC reports. I remember there was during one of, I think it was the last election that he ran in,
Yeah.
Mary something. She was like a comedian for the CBC on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. So she did a whole thing where she sort of portrayed Stephen Harper as Herr Harper. Mike Harris, former progressive conservative premier in Ontario. I remember going to protests and demonstrations outside political events when he was running for re-election, and they described him as Hitler as well. Hitler, Nazi. Mike Harris was not a Nazi, not as far as I can tell. Although these days, they all seem to be fairly Nazi-esque.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Truckers, freedom truckers. Oh, they're not truckers and they're not protesters. They're occupiers. They're insurrectionists. They're terrorists. They're white supremacists, neo-Nazis. You see, always to the extreme. No nuance. Not accurate. And this is very dangerous talk because we have a volatile situation. We're dealing with a superpower that has nuclear weapons. And I'll tell you this. If Russia was interested in genocide, all those people would already be freaking dead. Do you know how long it would take Russia to wipe them out if they were interested simply in genocide?
Mm-hmm.
Minutes.
Yeah. That's
Minutes.
a really good point.
We just want to kill them all. Do you think that if they were just interested in genocide, that they would have sent in their troops? And we've seen the response from the Russians in the media, although we're not really allowed to see much of it, so you have to dig for it. But we've seen that the Russians have suffered some serious losses. Many, many, many of their soldiers have been killed. And it's been a blow to their morale, but it's also stiffened their resolve to make sure that they are victorious in Ukraine. But believe you me, if the Russians just wanted to wipe all the Ukrainian people off the face of the planet, they'd launch a few nukes and just be done with it.
Yeah, it would be over really quick.
And they have more sophisticated nuclear warheads than the United States does. They could do it strategically because a lot of their weapons, their nuclear weapons, can be more precisely targeted. So they could go in and go bam, 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 and take out cities, and that would be the end of that. And then they'd all go home and put their feet up, I guess, because that's all it would take. So for the politician there to use the word genocide, what's the reason for that? Because they want more. They want to escalate. They want more. You see, by using genocide, the word, by having this pass in the House and all the SEALs get up and do, yeah, it's genocide. Yeah. Well, now it's more serious than it was, right? Now it's not just a war. Now it's genocide.
Yeah.
So that's more justification for Trudeau to stand up maybe next week and say, gonna have to send over. We committed, what was it, 400 million and heavy arms. Gonna have to send more. Sorry, Canadian taxpayers, you're just gonna have to cough it up and pay a little more at the pump, a little bit higher taxes, and we're just gonna have to borrow from your children's futures. And speaking of your children, since it's a genocide, I guess we're just gonna have to send in the troops after all. We didn't wanna have to do it, but they're losing too much ground. In fact, I think, honestly, Brendan, the thing's just about over there. The media won't admit it. Over here, I think it's much worse for the Ukrainians than they're letting on. And I think it's very close to being a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a few hundred soldiers in Mariupol, I think, from what I can determine from everything I've been trying to, all the information I've been trying to gather. It looks like you've got pockets of resistance, and they're in a lot of trouble. And the United States is committing more and more money
Yes, which
and more
is
and more arms, and so is the rest of the the West. They're
another-
ramping this up. They're trying to keep it alive, and if it persists, if this goes on, it's not because the Ukrainian forces were really that robust. It's because they're being propped up by more and more money and arms being dumped in there. And as someone said very intelligently to me, or maybe it was last night. I think it was last night with our guest from the New Blue Party, who said he heard someone say that the United States and NATO, that they were determined to fight to the very last drop of Ukrainian blood. And I thought, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, they're very determined for that, and not letting Russia have a single thing. They're certainly not interested in having conversation. They want to. You know what? We almost have a similar incidence with World War II and rounding up Japanese people to internment camps in Canada, but in the sense that we don't want anything to do with any Russian people, so we're booting them all out of the country. We don't want any discussion about it. We don't want even a Russian pianist with the Toronto Music Orchestra got kicked out for being Russian. Like, this is stupid. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It doesn't account for peace. We really need to have a huge emphasis on having conversations and debates, but clearly they're not interested in that. And when you say things like this without having an investigation, it's going to make them just look stupid in the end, because they'll have egg on their face.
As I said from the very beginning of this war never had to happen. Russia made it very clear, like a decade ago, that this was a red line.
Yes.
That Ukraine could not become a NATO country because they do not want weapons and NATO troops right on their border. And these warmongers have wanted to go to war with Russia for a long time. They think they can with minimal consequences. And this is not even a civil war, really, that Russia had sort of became involved in. What this is, as I said the other night, it's a proxy war.
Yeah.
The U.S. is fighting a proxy war through Ukraine with Russia. That's what is going on here. It's such a big, giant load of crap. It's kind of like this. You got, you have a town, and you've got another town. It's just like the United States, basically, and NATO, what they've done is, and Canada, we've gone out and we've hired a bunch of goons. We got a gang together. And the gang consists, honestly, folks, of Ukrainian soldiers, some Nazi battalions, some Nazi military groups that have been integrated into the Ukrainian military, and terrorists, including Al-Qaeda, some of them coming from Syria to join the battle, plus a ragtag group of, I don't know, what was it, about 10,000 or 16,000 soldiers recruited from civilians and anybody that wanted to show up from other countries. The border was basically open. It was like, come on in, we'll give you guns, you can fight too. So you got this weird mishmash of forces. So basically they put together a gang and decided to finance this whole thing. And we've been dumping billions of dollars in there, all the Western countries, to inflame all of this. And then they sit back and they say, it's not us. We're just providing weapons to a sovereign nation. And they have all these weapons that they're pouring into Ukraine, right on the Russian border, by the way. All the troops are NATO trained.
Yeah.
Trained and integrated into the NATO system already. And they keep saying, but they're not really joining NATO. They're not joining NATO. Ukraine's not joining NATO.
We have no plans to invite NATO, or you're crazy.
No, I mean, they asked, but, they're not part of NATO. And then we saw Blinken Antony Blinken yesterday, answering to Rand Paul, who I think is the first U.S. politician I've heard speak up on with the similar arguments that we're providing, or point of view that we're providing here tonight. And Blinken, who actually just got back from a trip to Ukraine to talk to them about sending more aid, military aid. You know, he's like, well, no, that's not really the way to look at it, because, you know, Ukraine is a sovereign nation, and we're just giving them arms to defend themselves, to repel the Russian aggression. Well, okay, but you know what? When you're right on the border of a superpower, as Ukraine is, and Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, but when you're right there, I'm sorry, but there's certain rules and standards, and there's certain etiquette and protocol that has to be followed, because you're basically on the doorstep of a nuclear power. So Russia has said all along they wanted Ukraine to remain neutral, and they're clearly not.
Yeah.
So Russia sees this as an existential threat to their sovereignty. They see the threat. Now, what's the threat? The threat is that an attack against Russia could be launched quickly, easily, lethally from Ukrainian soil. And it's no different than the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s, where the Russians tried to park nuclear missiles in Cuba, and Kennedy said, screw you, take them out, or we're gonna launch nukes right now, because it would have given the Russians first strike capability against the United States, upsetting the balance of power. So that was a similar situation. Or think of it as the Russians getting involved in a conflict in Mexico or here in Canada. Say there was some sort of civil war here in Canada, and then the Russians came in, took a side, and got a foothold in Canada, and they were right on the U.S. border. And they decided to bring in a lot of weapons and park them like in Windsor, Ontario, right? Or in Vancouver.
Yeah.
You think the United States would stand for that? Not a chance. It's the same damn thing. And now, because of this stupidity that we see in Ottawa, which is just more virtue signaling, it escalates things further. And why is this so dangerous? Well, let me show you. Because you don't have to look very far to see where this goes. This scares the crap out of me. Right here. Ukraine war. Russia warns UK it could launch military strikes on British soil. Mm-hmm. That's the headline. How does that make you feel? How does that make anybody feel? Well, that headline is propaganda. It's designed to get an emotional response out of you. Now you're pissed, and you're scared, and according to that headline, that could only be the strategy of a madman like Putin, right? And it just proves that we have to defend Ukraine and do whatever it takes there, because Russia, just like we were told, they have their sights set on expanding their empire, in attacking other countries. Look how aggressive they're being. They're talking about attacking UK. Do you really think that that's what Putin wants to do? He's got his hands full in Ukraine right now. Do you really think he wants to do that? Do you think he understands that if he does that, there might be some sort of pushback from NATO, the United States, United Kingdom? All of them have nukes. Do you think he wants that? Really? Well, let's read down a little further, shall we? Because I'm so sick of this crap mainstream media BS propaganda, because it's so damn dangerous. And I'm so sick of these politicians and their stupid virtue signaling, because they're putting our entire existence at risk.
Yeah.
So the story is the Kremlin, according to this article, says the Kremlin has threatened to strike British military targets in retaliation for the UK's support of Ukraine as Vladimir Putin's invasion stretches into its 63rd day. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova suggested that Moscow could target territory of NATO countries which have been supplying arms to Kiev to defend itself from Vladimir Putin's forces. Britain has been an outspoken ally of Ukraine and has supplied weapons, including anti-tank weapons and Starstreak anti-aircraft missiles. On Tuesday, a defense minister said the UK supports Ukraine's right to right. This is important. This is the key, and it's buried, okay? On Tuesday, a defense minister said the UK supports Ukraine's right to strike Russian territory, using Western-supplied weapons, a line which the Kremlin said was direct provocation, which would lead to a proportional response. So the real story is it's not that Russia is just out of the blue warning that it could launch military strikes on British soil, which is what the headline leads you to believe. There's not proper context in that headline. They are leading you and the Canadian public and the U.S. public, because this is on Yahoo News, which I think really comes from, I don't know, it's Yahoo News UK, okay?
Yeah.
So they're trying to tell the people in the United Kingdom as well, Putin's crazy. He just wants to bomb the UK. No, that's not what they said. They said, obviously, they're worried about an attack on Russia, an attack on Russian soil being launched from Ukraine, using all these weapons, billions and billions and billions of dollars in heavy arms that have been sent into Ukraine by NATO, by the United States, by Canada, using those weapons to attack Russia. Brendan, if I hired a bunch of mercenaries, paid for all the weapons, armed them all to the teeth, and then said, would you guys mind going down there and attacking Mexico? Do you think I would be responsible at all for that? Or would it be the mercenaries?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I think I'd be responsible since I paid for it, financed it, provided the arms, provided all the weapons, organized getting the gang together, and then told them what to do.
Yes, that's true.
So am I responsible in any way?
Yeah, I would say you're entirely responsible.
Okay, so what the hell is going on in Ukraine? You've got a U.S. puppet for a president who has jailed all of his political opponents, who's propped up by NATO, the West, and mainly the United States.
Yeah.
In Zelensky. He has all these weapons provided by NATO, by the West. He has a gang of mercenaries that has joined his Ukrainian army, his forces. You have terrorists coming to join. Honestly, terrorists also armed to the teeth by the West, who were previously enemies of the United States, NATO, the West, but then became tools of the West in the war in Syria, where they were armed by the West. So now you've got Al-Qaeda terrorists, rebranded in some cases, financed and armed by the United States. And these are the guys that we declared, war on terror against. And then you've got Nazi groups that they say aren't really there, but they acknowledged that they were there, and the Western media was doing documentaries on them until this all erupted. But now they don't exist. They're mythical Nazis like the Azov Battalion, Right Sector, all financed, armed to the teeth by the West with Javelin missiles, mines, heavy armor, vehicles, Humvees, drones.
Yep,
The United States alone is now up to, at last count, it was almost $4 billion they recently sent over there. And now Biden's talking about even more. Canada pledged almost $500 million plus heavy arms. I think we were up around 400 million at the last count.
Yes. It's been a blank check. Like, I don't know any other way to put it. It's like, well, here's just all this money, and you can do whatever you want with it, and it doesn't matter. Just have fun.
So we're financing it. We're told that we have to. Now we're told it's a genocide, so you know that they're going to want even more money. You know they're losing. So they want to dump more and more in there. And it won't be just weapons, especially if they're losing. They're going to need people. They're going to need more soldiers. Where do you think they're going to come from if they want to keep this thing going? They're going to be coming for your sons and daughters.
That's it.
Here's the problem. The Russians have nukes. See this story here? This is what I'm telling you. This is what I've been saying from the very beginning. Okay? Look at all this territory here that's already, it's basically controlled by the Russians. All this talk. And, you
Very
know,
dangerous.
and the way they flip this narrative around all the time to, I mean, it's war, so I get that it's propaganda, right? But even this energy situation involving Poland, where the gas supply has been cut off from Russia, and Bulgaria. Poland, I think it's 40% of its gas from Russia. So they have to scramble, and they're going to try to replace that supply. But of course, it's affecting prices.
It'll affect things very broadly for a long time.
And why did Russia respond the way they did? Because of all the economic sanctions imposed by the United States, Canada, the West. And so they were attacking Russia economically using economic warfare, which also means that the West is at war with Russia because they're using all of these non-military wartime tactics, declaring economic war against Russia. So they're trying to protect their currency by making their energy customers like Poland pay for their gas in rubles. And Poland said, nope. So the gas has been cut off. In Bulgaria, it's even more serious because I think they get something like 90% of their gas from Russia. So this is really a problem.
That's a big problem.
But how are we responding in the West? I'm hearing the word blackmail thrown around now. The Russians are blackmailing these countries.
Who are they blackmailing? Oh.
See? They're blackmailing.
Okay, yeah,
well,
I see what you're saying.
That's the Western description of what Russia is doing. No, Russia is trying to protect their currency by saying, if you want to buy our gas, you pay us in our currency. That creates demand for the ruble to support the value of the ruble. It's really that simple. And why is that happening? It's because the West has sanctioned Russia. They have imposed all these restrictions on banking, took them out of the SWIFT payment system. So, that affects their ability to conduct transactions internationally. So funds can be frozen. It leaves Russia open and vulnerable to economic attack by the Western countries. It puts them in a position where it leaves the West in the driver's seat economically to control Russia's economy. And Russia is saying, we can't do that. And we're not going to let our currency collapse. So we're going to do this. Or you guys can all freeze. So you want to buy our gas, you pay in our currency. Now they're saying that's blackmail. I mean, I hate coming on here and sounding like I'm defending Russia, but there are reasons for what you get. And it's not enough, especially when you're talking about people's lives, to just go along to get along with the mob. It's just not enough. You need truth. The people here deserve the truth. If we're really supposed to be supporting something, financing a conflict, financing defense, or whatever you want to call it, if they want my tax dollars so they can send weapons to someone, I want the truth. I want to know what the real story is. I don't want them feeding me just the information they want so that they can make me feel better about taking my money without letting me know transparently what is really going on and what my money is really being used for. What, not just what it's being used for, but what the true objective is here.
That's my big.
I think largely the true objective is to make some people very, very rich.
And to make some people very, very poor.
And dead. And they don't care. I think that's the truth. Because as we said, as I pointed out a long time ago, this never had to happen. A negotiated settlement would have been quite easy. Ukraine could have been left a neutral country. The war wouldn't have unfolded. Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine at all. All they had to do was just leave it neutral, make it neutral, demilitarize it. Nothing would have been bombed. The government could have remained in power. It could have been a true democracy, where the people get to vote. You're just not allowed to have a bunch of missiles sitting on the Russian border in Ukraine. And I think Vladimir Putin would have been okay with that because he said so. But if you choose to ignore that, and then you want to listen to this, who was it that introduced that?
Oh, actually, I have it right here, and I took a moment this afternoon to peruse her Facebook. So this is Heather McPherson. She's an MP with the federal NDP party. So for those around the world, that is Canada's like further left than left party. The epitome of hypocrisy is making a bold move like that. And then she goes out and says, as we watch in horror the illegal invasion and war in Ukraine, the illegal invasion, we must all understand the urgency and importance of nuclear disarmament. Today, I stood with Mary Lou McPhedran and Lindsay Matheson and Honorable Douglas Rush and to call on the Canadian government to act on nuclear disarmament, to finally agree to send a delegation to this hashtag TPNW meeting this spring, which is a meeting that is going to be happening. It's about the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, but fact check, Canada does not have any nuclear weapons to be disarmamented about. And also, what the hell, why would we... We're in a serious problem right now with Russia where we really pissed this whole country off, and now we want to say, let's get rid of all the nukes. Oh, that is hypocrisy and stupidity in and of itself. And we as a society need to understand that it is not enough to signal our virtue, but to actually be virtuous.
That's a good question, actually. Just came up there. What is a legal war? It's all stupid, right? It's all freaking stupid. Because it's like, when is it legal to go around killing people? I guess if you're being attacked and they're killing you and you didn't provoke them, and they come in like, you know,
in America,
they're coming over the wall and they're going to kill your family. I guess you have the right to defend yourself, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's what we're dealing with here.
No, absolutely not.
So
Am I off the mark in saying like you can't call for international disarmament and then also tell Russia that what they're doing is committing genocide? It's like usually statements like that are backed up by having some sort of.
I'm not sure.
force.
I'm not sure I follow you, Brendan.
Okay, so they want to push the Trudeau government to work with nuclear disarmament, and Canada doesn't have any nukes.
Okay.
We have the Russian government that we really pissed off at this point, and so is it really a good idea right now to talk about getting rid of nuclear weapons after we pissed off a nuclear superpower?
I'm not sure I follow what you're trying to say. She wants nuclear disarmament.
We don't have nukes in Canada.
Right.
It's stupid. It's all stupid.
Is she calling on Canada? Are you saying that she wants Canada to disarm, but we don't have any nukes? Is she specifically talking about Canada or just nuclear powers in general?
Canadian government to act on disarmament to finally agree to send a delegation to the TPNW meeting this spring. So it is an international thing, but Canada doesn't really have a role to play in that. We don't have nukes. We rely on the United States for that sort of thing. And then we can
still have a voice and still contribute to the conversation and act diplomatically to have nuclear powers look at disarming or reducing their stockpiles or helping to facilitate negotiations and discussion. So I'm still not sure I'm on the same page. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
Yeah, forget about it. It's all good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just maybe not up to speed.
Well, all I'm saying is you can't have a madman like Russia. You can't have things like Russia right now who have all the nukes, and then we're going to start talking about nuclear disarmament. Like, we're not talking to Russia, so how are we going to talk to them about getting rid of nuclear weapons?
Oh, okay. Because we're not talking to them.
We're not talking to them on anything.
Right. Well, we do need to open dialogue, and it would be great if a country like Canada could help facilitate that instead of. And you're never going to get to discussion if all you're going to do is sit there and accuse one side in the conflict of genocide instead of dealing with the actual issues on the table and saying, hey guys, why don't you guys all sit down and we'll help be peacekeepers. How about that? We'll help facilitate peace. Let's have a talk and a discussion, see if we can bring this thing to an end. What do you want? What do you want? That
would be entirely different, but she's not playing with a full deck of cards where she is trying to get
here. Yeah, she's calling it genocide, which just escalates everything. And then over here, she's saying, let's have talks.
No. And meanwhile, we had Chrystia Freeland whether it was last week or 2 weeks ago at the G20 summit.
That's Canada's deputy prime minister, by the way.
And they had everybody walked out when Russia would ever speak on anything. They would walk out of the room. Like, we're not talking to these people at all in almost a psychotic kind of way.
Yeah, I agree with Baba Yaga 108. Talks, not troops. 100%. That's where we need to be going. And it's going to go there eventually anyway, because at some point, Ukraine's just going to crumble militarily. It's just going to happen. Russia's not going to lose this. They're just not. So yeah, I'm really worried about it, and this is so dangerous. This could spiral out of control in a heartbeat. And these freaking politicians need to learn to keep their damn mouths shut. They really do. See, the other thing is, this woman, what was her name again?
Heather McPherson.
What the hell does she know anyway? What makes her a bloody expert? What was her background before she got elected a member of parliament? The truth, folks, is that all these people we send to Ottawa, what's their background? They might be a pharmacist or a farmer or an accountant or maybe a lawyer, or who knows? They could have been a car salesman. Everybody that we send to Ottawa that we elect, they all have different backgrounds. I doubt very much if that member of parliament knows diddly squat about Ukraine. Probably couldn't have found it on a map until the conflict broke out. Now she's calling it genocide. I doubt she knows very much. She's probably dumb as a rock. I don't know what her background is, but I'll bet you a donut. She has very little in the way of expertise when it comes to international relations, foreign politics, foreign policy. She's just virtue signaling. Got to put that Ukrainian flag on your Facebook post to support the latest thing.
She was executive director of an organization representing Alberta not-for-profit organizations that work on issues relating to poverty reduction, human rights, environmental protection, and gender equity. She has a Master of Education from the University of Alberta and is taught around the world. So, a teacher, essentially.
Left-wing activist, hired by a government-financed left-wing organization that has left-wing woke politics at its core, and she's probably dumb as a bag of rocks. I don't care what her degree is in, what was it, education?
Yes.
Dumb as a bag of rocks. She's in there teaching people about gender equality instead of reading, writing, arithmetic, science. Dumb as a bag of rocks. Guaranteed. And probably neurotic as hell. They all are.
Oh, Big D has a good deal for you. He wants to bet you a bag of crinkle cut fries that it's all scripted.
The problem is, I think that Big D and I are probably on the same side, so there's nothing to bet against. But I'll take the other side if I can win the crinkle cut fries. So, yeah, that's it. That's it, folks. What can I say? It's all messed up, getting worse every day. And they want escalation. And that's the other thing, right? Do you have that clip of Biden today where he was talking about additional
It wasn't so much a clip.
He's find the clip of Biden talking about the additional money and military aid that they want to send now to Ukraine. It's a lot of additional money, a lot more, because they know they're in trouble over there. And I'm coming back to this point too. They say that, they're basically saying, oh, it's not us. We're just hands off. We're just providing arms to a sovereign nation, which is every nation has a right to arm itself. So it's not our fault. Can't blame us. We're not at war with Russia. And we don't want regime change in Russia, but they want regime change in Russia. If anything, that story that I showed you on Yahoo News illustrates very clearly that the West wants regime change in Russia, that Putin's concerns about the sovereignty of Russia being threatened by having arms in Ukraine is legitimate, because the United Kingdom said that they recognize Ukraine's right to launch attacks against Russia from Ukrainian soil. So if the United Kingdom is talking about how they recognize Ukraine's right to do that, then I guess it's kind of a threat to Russia, isn't it? which just kind of shows you why Vladimir Putin did what he did. Not saying that invading the country was the right thing to do. In fact, in a way, I think it was kind of a trap for the Russians. That's kind of in their playbook too, with these fascio communists that lead us today. We're not the free country we used to be.
Whenever you're ready, I'll let Sleepy Joe.
Let's listen to the man.
Sleepy Joe.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I just signed a request to Congress for critical security, economic, and humanitarian assistance to help Ukraine continue to counter Putin's aggression, and at a very pivotal moment. We need this bill to support Ukraine in this fight for freedom, and our NATO allies, our EU partners, they're going to pay their fair share of the cost as well, but we have to do this. We have to do our part as well, leading the alliance. The cost of this fight is not cheap, but caving to aggression is going to be more costly if we allow it to happen. We either back Ukrainian people as they defend their country, or we stand by as the Russians continue their atrocities and aggression in Ukraine. Every day the Ukrainians pay for the price, and the price they pay is with their lives for this fight. So we need to contribute arms, funding, ammunition, and the economic support to make their courage and sacrifice have purpose so they can continue this fight and do what they're doing. It's critical this funding gets approved and approved as quickly as possible. You know, long before Russia launched its brutal invasion, I made clear how the United States would respond. Predicted they would invade, and they surely did. We said we'd not send U.S. troops to fight Russian troops in Ukraine, but we would provide robust military assistance and try to unify the Western world against Russia's aggression. I said I would impose powerful sanctions on Russia, and that we destroy this myth that somehow they can continue to move without the rest of the world acting. That we deploy additional forces to defend NATO territories, particularly in the east along the Russian and Belarus borders. That's exactly what we said we would do, and we did. But despite the disturbing rhetoric coming out of the Kremlin, the facts are plain for everybody to see. We're not attacking Russia. We're helping Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. And just as Putin chose to launch this brutal invasion, he could make the choice to end this brutal invasion. Russia is the aggressor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Russia is the aggressor, and the world must and will hold Russia accountable. Russia's continued assault is yielding immense human cost. We've seen them leave behind horrifying evidence of their atrocities and war crimes in the areas they tried to control. And as long as the assaults and atrocities continue, we're going to continue to supply military assistance. And I might note parenthetically, you know, there's a dinner this weekend, Celebrate the Press. Think of what the American press has done. The courage it's taken to stay in these war zones. The courage it's taken to report every single day. I've always had respect for the press, but I can't tell you how much respect I have watching them in these zones where they're under fire, risking their own lives to make sure the world hears the truth. Imagine if we weren't getting that information. It'd be a different world. It'd be a different circumstance. In the past 2 months, Russia launched its brutal attack and has moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine. We've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine in record speed. Thanks to the aid we provided, Russian forces have been forced to retreat from Kyiv. Doesn't mean they're not going to try to come back, but they've retreated thus far. We've sent thousands of anti-armor, anti-missiles, helicopters, drones, grenade launchers, machine guns, rifles, radar systems. More than 50 million rounds of ammunition. The United States alone has provided 10 anti-armor systems for every Russian tank that is in Ukraine, 10 to 1. We're providing Ukraine significant, timely intelligence to help them defend themselves against the Russian onslaught. And we're facilitating a significant flow of weapons and systems to Ukraine from our allies and partners around the world, including tanks, artillery, and other weapons. That support is moving with unprecedented speed. Much of the new equipment we've announced in the past 2 weeks has already gotten to Ukraine, where it can be put to direct use on the battlefield. However, we've almost exhausted what we call, the fancy phrase, the drawdown authority that Congress authorized for Ukraine in a bipartisan spending bill last month. Basically, we're out of money. And so that's why today, in order to sustain Ukraine as it continues to fight, I'm sending Congress a supplemental budget request. It's going to keep weapons and ammunition flowing without interruption to the brave Ukrainian fighters and continue delivering economic and humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainian people. This so-called supplemental funding addresses the needs of the Ukrainian military during the critical weeks and months ahead. And it begins the transition to longer-term security assistance that's going to help Ukraine deter and continue to defend against Russian aggression. This assistance would provide even more artillery, armored vehicles, anti-armored systems, anti-air capabilities that have been used so effectively thus far in the battlefield by the Ukrainian warriors. You know, and it's going to deliver much-needed humanitarian assistance as well as food, water, medicine, shelter, and other aid to Ukrainians displaced by Russia's war, and provide aid for those seeking refuge in other countries from Ukraine. It's also going to help schools and hospitals open. It's going to allow pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket. It's also going to provide critical resources to address food shortages around the globe. Ukraine was one of the world's largest agricultural producers. It typically grows 10% of all the wheat that's shipped around the world. Putin has asserted sanctions are blocking food from Ukraine and Russia getting on the market, the sanctions we've imposed on Russia. Simply not true. Putin's war, not sanctions, are impacting the harvest of food and disrupting the movement of that food by land and sea to nations around the globe that need it. This funding is going to help ease rising food prices at home as well and abroad caused by Russia's war in Ukraine. It's going to help support American farmers produce more crops like wheat and oilseed, which is good for rural America, good for the American consumer, and good for the world. And this supplemental request will use the Defense Production Act to expand domestic production and the reserve of critical materials like nickel and lithium that have been disrupted by Putin's war in Ukraine and that are necessary to make everything from defense systems to automobiles. And I hope Congress will move on this funding quickly. I believe they will. I want to thank Congress, Democrats and Republicans, for their support of the people of Ukraine. And next week, I will be in Alabama to visit Lockheed Martin plant that manufactures the Javelin anti-tank missile we've been sending to Ukraine, and to thank the American workers, thank them for producing the weapons that help stop Russia's advances in Ukrainian cities like Kyiv. Their hard work has played a critical role in ensuring Putin's strategic failure in Ukraine, and they should know that we know it. In addition to this supplemental funding, I'm also sending to Congress a comprehensive package that will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies.
Are you there, Joe? Hello, Joe. Let her rip there, Brendan, and your microphone is muted, by the way, pal.
Sorry, no, that was. Did you catch that?
Oh, I caught it.
Should we backplay that?
Sure, go ahead. Let's play what he didn't say again, or how he butchered what he was saying.
All right, yeah, well.
That will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy.
Kleptocracy, I think, is the word.
Kleptocracy.
He just gives up in the middle of it. What?
Oh, it's sad. Let's just let the guy continue.
The
Unbelievable.
guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys. This legislative package strengthens our law enforcement capabilities to seize property linked to Russia's kleptocracy. It's going to create new expedited procedures for forfeiture and seizure of these properties. And it's going to ensure that when the oligarchs' assets are sold off, funds can be used directly to remedy the harm Russia caused in their help build Ukraine. Additionally, yesterday, Russia threatened two of our allies with a cutoff of energy supplies. While America has ended all Russian fossil fuel imports because we're able to use our vast supply of power in our country, some European countries have faced more challenges in reducing their reliance on Russian fuel. Russia has long claimed to be, quote, the reliable source of energy for the world. No matter what the differences are, their customers are always going to be in good shape. But these actions prove that energy is not just a commodity that Russia sells to help meet other countries' needs, but a weapon we use to deploy against those who stand against their aggression. So let me be clear. We will not let Russia intimidate or blackmail their way out of these sanctions. We
Blackmail.
will not allow them to use their oil and gas to avoid consequences for their aggression. We're working with other nations like Korea, Japan, Qatar, and others to support our effort to help the European allies threatened by Russia with gas, blackmail, and their energy needs in other ways. Aggression will not
Stop
win.
for a sec.
Threats will not win.
He used the word blackmail in the middle of that too. He's not all there. Sorry, go ahead.
They forgot to wind up Joe before this.
He
press
didn't take his
conference.
brain vitamins before he stepped on stage.
No.
This is just another reminder of the imperative for Europe and the world to move more and more of our power needs to clean energy. In the United States, we're doing that right now. Last year, we developed more solar, wind, and battery storage than any year in our history, enough to power 56 million American homes. Earlier this month, we acted to bolster our reliance on our nuclear energy facilities, which generates more than half of our carbon-free power. And we're just getting started. I look at this as a serious problem, but also an enormous opportunity, Bottom line, all these actions we've been taking are about this truth. Investing in Ukraine's freedom and security is a small price to pay to punish Russian aggression to lessen the risk for future conflicts.
Stop.
You know, throughout our history, we've learned that.
So it's a small price to pay, but we're the ones who are going to pay it. He's telling you. Right?
Yeah, and
Who's paying for it?
He's not even gonna be around.
It's the people, us. We're all going to pay for it. But it's worth it. Go ahead.
That when dictators do not pay the price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and engage in more aggression. They keep moving. And the threats to America and the world keep rising.
And stop for a
Can't let this
second. I want to address something else. He addressed the issue of the oligarchs and seizing their assets.
Gonna seize their yachts,
Yeah, which we've seen happen in other countries as well.
especially UK.
I don't think it's wise. I don't like it because it's just part of this Russia phobia that has gripped the world, where they're banning athletes from sports events. If you're Russian now, you just have to be Russian and you're the enemy. You can be a Russian living in the United States or Canada and you're the enemy. You speak Russian, people will take it out on you. But if you're a Russian citizen anywhere in the world where the West has control, you're at risk. You don't even have to support the war. You might be against the war. Doesn't matter. If you're Russian, you're in a lot of trouble. And if you're a rich Russian, they're going to just take your stuff. Just going to take it. You know what they call that? Theft.
And who the hell's going to want to trade after, like, what type of trust does that bestow upon countries? Like, we want to be a desirable place where people will come build industry and that sort of thing. But what type of trust or faith would they have in us if there's anything going on? All of their assets will be seized, and there you have it.
And I'll say that these Russian oligarchs, a lot of them might not be nice people, and they probably took advantage of the collapse of the Soviet Union and had ways and means to get in and take advantage and scoop up massive amounts of assets and wealth and enrich themselves. But do you think that things are really much different over here? Do you think that the families, the rich families in the United States and Canada that sit on the top of the socioeconomic ladder and dictate to the rest of us how we're supposed to live our lives because they own the big corporations and control them, because they scoop up all these government grants? Do you think that it's much different, really? Do you think our oligarchs are pure and virtuous and the Russian oligarchs are evil? And you know the families I'm talking about, all the wealthy families.
What about the Trudeau family? Would they be oligarchs?
I'm talking about families that control large industries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communications companies, construction companies, big corporations that are family controlled and are in bed with government, and these guys feed at the public trough every day and have for generations, and they're wealthy, wealthy, wealthy. And yet this guy here is talking about kleptomaniacs and a kleptocracy. What, in the same breath, saying that they're going to seize the assets of foreign nationals who maybe are rich, have yachts, properties, and probably investments in even in North America.
Yes.
So you've got some Russian who owns companies or portions of companies in the United States or Canada. They do business over here. And this guy goes in and just takes all their stuff. Says, it's ours now. Too bad for you. Screw you. We might even throw you in jail if you're here. If you're not, we're just going to have to boot you out of the country. I don't know, man. Where's the legal justification for that? Really? What did that guy do? I want to know.
I'll tell you what he did. He was born Russian.
That's right. I think it was, I did see where a yacht was confiscated because there was some sort of a festival or a boating thing, a yachting thing. And they determined, I can't remember what country it was in. Maybe it was in England.
I think it's UK that you're talking about with that. There was also a mansion that a bunch of people took it over.
Right. I saw that. You know,
we talked about that on the show. I'll find out about that yacht, though. Keep talking.
It's just, I just don't think it's right. I think it's also dangerous because what goes around comes around, folks. So maybe somebody from the Rogers family now is vacationing in some foreign land, right? Maybe out of the jurisdiction of Western governments, and maybe the Russians or the Chinese, maybe they're an ally of the Russians. Maybe they have jurisdiction legally, and say maybe a member of the Rogers Communications family, right, in Canada, maybe
Yes.
they're over there, and the next thing you know, they've seized their yacht, thrown them in jail, and then we have another situation like the two Michaels on our hands, right?
And then there's also a female WNBA player who did sports for Russia in the off season.
Yeah.
She is currently being held captive there too. It's these games are very bad, and they're only there to. It's not going to fix anything. This is just going to make it worse. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not feasible. And there you have it. Yes, this was like a month ago that had happened.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it. It escalates things. It complicates things. It makes people who, honestly, a lot of them are not involved.
Yeah.
They're involved in. I mean, we're more involved in the conflict over there than most people, Brendan, because we're on here talking about this stuff just about every night, right?
Yes,
But
exactly.
the average person, like, they're, some of these people having their assets seized are as involved as my next door neighbor. Not at all. But
Yeah.
unbelievable, man. The world is burning. Absolutely burning. Anyway, that's where we're at with the situation in Ukraine. Not good. Escalating even now, as I think Ukraine is on its last legs militarily. We'll see if this infusion of more U.S. cash and arms and Canadian cash and arms and more military and financial aid from other Western NATO countries, if that has much of an impact, I just don't know. It's pretty clear to me, though, that the information we're getting is incomplete, inaccurate, and the truth is, I think that Ukraine is losing badly. I think that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I think they're surrounded in certain areas, and Russia is not committing a genocide. They're sitting back and basically waiting them out, starving them out till their supplies run out and they get weak, and then they don't have to risk their men and their resources. I think that's the strategy. And right now, I'd say time is on the Russians' side. Unless, of course, more weapons manage to get in. I just don't know, Brendan. I think that we're being lied to, largely. But is that a big surprise given what we've seen, especially over the last couple of years here in our countries?
Yeah. And I would say the very fact that all of the reporting work that's been done over the past 15 years and discussions, what was that professor's name again? I watched him a long time ago.
John Biersheimer?
Yes, John Biersheimer. They've been talking about all of these things for years, and for everybody to do an about face on this and not talk about it it's just so weird. It is way more weird than anything that we've seen in the past 2 years, and there's a lot of weird things that happened in the past 2 years.
You think it's weird that they're not talking about it in the way that Professor Mearsheimer talks about it, or the way that we're talking about it?
By the way, they were talking about it for the past 15 years, and then they stopped. Like, we've showed you all the journalism clips from the past 15 years, and it's like, okay, well, just sweep that under the rug. Nothing to see here.
Well, but except I would say that people like Professor Mearsheimer have always been in the minority. Mm-hmm. And when you had neocons and warmongering liberals like the Clintons, mm-hmm. they have for decades taken a completely different tact on this than Professor Mearsheimer. And they've been facilitating and promoting NATO expansion, while at the same time saying they aren't. They're the ones back in 2014, 2015, and heading into the 2016 presidential election, they're the ones who are calling for more support in Syria, for the rebels in Syria to go up against Assad, which was in Assad being supported by the Russians. They wanted to fight a proxy war even back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the things have not really changed that much. And when things fell apart and Trump was elected, he was in their way. That's why you got all this Russia hoax, Russia collusion. That's why the whole thing with the phone call with Zelensky and Trump blew up into Trump's impeachment, which was completely bogus, right? We know that now. All of it provable. That's why you got the spying on Trump. That's why they accused him of being a Russian stooge, because they wanted to go to war and send our troops in to Syria. It would have been a more convenient place for them to do that in Syria than to do it in Ukraine. And the situation less volatile and less likely to erupt into a nuclear conflict in Syria. But they wanted to do it there. I know they did. I could tell when I was watching the propaganda leading up to that presidential election. I remember the false flag attacks with the white helmets, which were supposed to be the good guys. In reality, they were gassing their own people. That's what the real story ended up being. The pictures that were coming out of there, the Syrian refugees fleeing. It cost Harper a lot of votes, maybe even the election, because you had that. I don't know if any of you remember it, and we don't have to get into it too much tonight, but you may remember the images of the young Syrian boy that washed up like basically a toddler, washed up dead on the beach.
Yep.
Drowning, trying to cross to escape, fleeing the conflict in Syria.
That's
and then Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, he suffered politically because he was blamed for that by our mainstream media that portrayed him as someone who was uncaring because he still had certain immigration levels that he said were sustainable, while the Liberals were saying they just wanted to open the border and let basically an unlimited number of refugees flow into the country. And if you didn't want to do that, you were insensitive and uncaring and a racist and a bigot, and you didn't care about the poor refugees coming from war-torn Syria. In reality, Canada had nothing directly to do with that young boy washing up on the beach, but Stephen Harper got the blame for it.
Yeah. No, I remember that very distinctly. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go back and look at that. That's how far back this stuff goes. And it goes back even further than that. It goes all the way back to the end of World War II.
It just goes to show you how connected it all is, though, right? Like
it absolutely is all connected. There's a lot of history here and there's a lot of nuance, and you need to understand it's not just that Vladimir Putin woke up one morning a couple of months ago and said, I think I'd like to expand the empire. Send the troops into Ukraine. It's time to attack. No, there's more to it than that, folks. He's not just a crazy man. He's quite sane. And there are reasons why he did what he did, and I'm not justifying it, but I'm also saying that on our side, we could have prevented all of this, and what's going on right now, extremely dangerous, because it could easily lead to an escalated nuclear conflict, which if that happens, it won't be limited. And it's coming here. And this could also escalate, and I think it might escalate first, into us being brainwashed and convinced that we have to send our young men and women over there to fight. And if we do that, I can just about guarantee this thing's going nuclear. And I've been warning about it, and you're seeing it in that news story tonight that I showed you, where they're rattling the sabers in a psychological way, trying to make people think that Vladimir Putin wants to bomb the UK. In reality, Putin was saying, and his, well, not directly from Putin, but his people, his military advisors, making a public statement saying that if NATO weapons supplied by NATO are used by forces to launch an attack on Russian soil, launched from Ukraine using NATO supplied weapons, that they might look at attacking the United Kingdom. For that matter, I think they might be looking at dropping something on the United States.
Way before they'd ever look at doing it at the UK, like the article we had shown you just a little while ago.
Not good. And these bastards publishing this crap with headlines like that, they're a big part of the problem. The mainstream media leading us down a path of destruction and death. It's disgusting. We're going to take a short break. Be right back after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Please support us. Please go to freedomreporters.com and donate if you can. We need your help. We can't keep doing this every night unless we've got your support. It's going to take some resources to keep us going here, to keep the lights on. We've got costs, and we put a lot of time into producing these 3-hour broadcasts every evening. And we're extremely grateful for everyone who has supported us thus far. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know that what we're saying is resonating with a larger and larger audience every night, because people are coming on board and the message is getting out there. But we do need your support to continue. You can click the hot link in the YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble descriptions. Go straight to the donation page. And if you're not in a position to help us with even a small donation, I totally understand. That's fine. At least you're watching. And Brendan will tell you how you can support us in other ways.
You can make sure that you smash the like button or the Rumble button. This helps us to defeat the algorithm and is very easy to help us do this. I know there is plenty of people watching out there right now, so let's hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. It is a really big help. Furthermore, if you haven't already, we're always looking for more Mavericks to join our family. Please hit the subscribe button, and you can join us for our daily discussions. And last but not least, you be sure to hit the bell to make sure that you don't miss any of our content. Well, I mean, I lied there. Make sure you also share this too. So that's the last but not least. Make sure you share this as well. And all of your support that you've given us over the past few months has been amazing. And we're definitely very happy to be working with you and having these conversations. So thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for all your supports, whether it's coming out to support us, coming out to have conversations in the Maverick family, or financial donations, hitting the like button, that sort of thing. Thank you so much, everybody.
So from Ukraine, we turn back to Canada now, where this weekend the world will be watching in Ottawa as bikers head to the nation's capital for Rolling Thunder, an event, a protest, a rally, whatever you want to call it. Whatever it is, I'll tell you one thing it is. It's turning into another showdown between bikers and cops.
Mm-hmm.
800 RCMP officers have been recruited to come in and work overtime again as reinforcements for local police this weekend. 800 RCMP officers. 800.
Mm-hmm.
800 RCMP officers. Is it a protest? Is it a rally? What is it? It's a big threat to the government, apparently, because they're still worried about these things. It's a powder keg waiting to be set off. I hope it isn't. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that my fears are not realized. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that the people that go are able to ride in or drive in and park their vehicles and do whatever they're going to do, walk into the area, because they're not going to be allowed to bring their vehicles down into the downtown area. Huge, what are they calling it? A no-go zone? It's a
exclusion zone.
Vehicle exclusion zone. You know, I was thinking about that Top Gun song, Danger Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went into the exclusion zone. I don't mean to make light of it. It's a really serious situation. I am really worried about where all this is going, and the world will be watching again. I hope we don't get a repeat of the situation where the cops beat the crap out of veterans before with batons, shot people with rubber bullets, tear gassed people, hit them with sonic sound waves from what do they call it? A LiDAR truck.
LiDAR, yep. $800 cops, like that's a lot.
Because they're afeared. They're afeared of the people.
I'm afeared.
Afeared of us.
You coming around my property, you fearing me?
Afeared. Yes, they are. Let's go to the news conference that they had today. We'll play some of this, and we'll show you where their mindset is at as we head into this weekend. And then I'll tell you why, in some ways, we are winning on the freedom side, while at the same time, we're still losing. And I'll explain that after we listen to these politicians and police officials, including the police chief of Ottawa, explain what they're doing to prepare for this apparently very threatening rally this weekend, where bikers, many of them veterans, wanted to come in and lay a wreath on the War Memorial in Ottawa.
Ottawa police are in contact with representatives of the business improvement areas, the BIAs.
This is the mayor
to keep them
speaking,
apprised of all
Jim
plans
Watson.
and to address any concerns that they
I'll
may
be right
have.
back.
We also encourage residents to continue to shop downtown, to continue to shop the Byward Market, to use public transit to get in and out of the downtown core. The city is also working with OPS to ensure that other events this weekend will go on as planned, including the very important CN Cycle for CHIO on Sunday. Nous travaillons pour soutenir les entreprises et les résidents d'Ottawa pour qu'ils puissent continuer avec leur occupation quotidienne. All measures are being taken to ensure residents can access the programs, services, and supports that the city has to offer, but residents can expect some disruptions and traffic delays this weekend. People certainly have the right to protest peacefully, and I want to emphasize that no illegal activity will be tolerated. We're stepping up enforcement, and there will be significant consequences for people who break the law.
I want to stop there for a minute. Because first of all, no laws have been broken. The people who apparently are organizing this said it wasn't a protest, although it is. But they've also said clearly that they don't support blocking traffic. They don't support and won't tolerate within the group vandalism or anything like that. They're prejudging the group before they even get down there. And yes, they may be, it's wise to prepare always for any eventuality. But the language he's using is prejudicial. They're profiling a group of people, bikers, truckers, people who support freedom, conservatives, middle class, and you can pick the demographic. They're targeting everyone going down there for this one event. They're not worried about the people going to the poutine festival or whatever it is, the other things going on this weekend that he mentioned. They only care about the bikers. But these are not Hell's Angels, Satan's Choice, organized crime bikers. These are people with expensive motorcycles, Hondas, Harleys, whatever, Christians, Christian bikers, your next door neighbor, a lot of them veterans, people who just like to ride. His attitude is disgusting.
I know OPS, city councilors, and city staff are working tirelessly, and I want to thank them for their service. I now ask Councillor El Chantiri, the chair of the Police Services Board, to offer a few comments. Monsieur El Chantiri, s'il vous plaît. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, everyone. This weekend, we are expecting an event consistent of a convoy of bikers called Rolling Thunder. The Ottawa Police Service Board has received briefing from the services on the plans to manage this event and ensure public safety. The service and the board understand the hurt in our community. The right to protest will always be protected. The police.
That's why we're winning. And I wanted to point this out. The Emergencies Act is no longer in place. So they don't have the same powers that they had when the truckers were down there for the Freedom Convoy. And they're acknowledging that you have the right to protest under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's interesting for them to acknowledge this, and they did so, the police chief also did, in a written release. And it's important because they're acknowledging your right to protest. But I also pointed out yesterday and the day before that under Bill 100, which is now law in Ontario, the Keep Ontario Open Act, a lot of the same powers that were provided under the Emergencies Act when it was invoked by Justin Trudeau to declare war on the truckers. A lot of those same powers are now available to police through this new provincial legislation, which doesn't end run around the charter. So anyone going up there this weekend is at risk of having their vehicle confiscated, motorcycle, car, whatever, even having your driver's license taken away. You could be arrested, fined, no due process, by the way, if they think that you might commit a crime. So it's interesting for them to be using this language, though, because I think this, in an indirect way, is telling us something very important. And what is it? It's that they know that that piece of legislation is overreach. They know that piece of legislation is unconstitutional. They know that it probably wouldn't stand up to scrutiny and stand up to a legal challenge in court. The problem is, right now, that legislation is still in effect. And anyone that gets charged, they will become the test cases for that legislation. I'm worried that this weekend might be the first opportunity for police and bureaucrats and politicians to test that legislation. So my advice to everyone is be very careful, mind your P's and Q's. And if you go up there, make sure you are squeaky clean. Don't jaywalk. Don't spit on the sidewalk. Do nothing illegal. Don't let your vehicle idle, or they'll pull your driver's license and take your car away. Don't do anything. You got to stay absolutely on the right side of the law all weekend. I'm really worried about it too, because they're just looking for an opportunity to arrest people and make an example of you in the media. Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
And they'll be looking for an opportunity to take someone to court with a case that they think is as strong as it can be to set a legal precedent so they can use that piece of crap legislation against Ontario residents in the months and years to come. And what happens in Ontario will have an impact across Canada if a legal precedent is set. And if they charge you and they want to make an example of you because you fit whatever cliched image they have in their minds of whatever their enemy is, and I think we know what that is.
Yeah, big
which
time.
is a big burly biker with a beard and a black vest, right? Riding a motorcycle, looks threatening, probably is as lovable as a teddy bear. But you might end up sitting in jail for an extended period of time with no bail because that's the way they roll. And they'll turn you into a political prisoner. And if you think I'm joking, just look back at the way they responded when the truckers were in Ottawa before. And let's let this news conference roll and listen to the language they use. They know that that legislation is unconstitutional provincially, and other provinces are adopting or preparing to adopt similar laws to give themselves, to give police these unprecedented powers that neuter the Charter of Rights and Freedoms permanently. They know, but they're still looking for ways to cement their power.
And the city in clear that vehicle-based protests will not be allowed, and I support this decision. Councillors representing impact area have been regularly briefed on the process and our plan. The service has made it clear to the board and council and our community that its priority is ensuring the safety of all involved. People have the right to lawful and peaceful demonstrations, but they do not have the right to intimidate, threaten, or assault our community.
The truckers were not violent. The truckers were peaceful. The truckers were not threatening people. We know it. And this is the other thing you need to be aware of. And you already know this, but it bears repeating. It doesn't even matter how peaceful you are. If they decide to make an example of you, they'll just make crap up. The media will do it for them. They've done it before. They keep on doing it. They're lying to us about every damn thing these days. And they'll do it again in Ottawa this weekend. And I think they're itching to. They love to find an opportunity to spin up some bogus story to make you all look bad. And in the process, undermine the entire freedom movement. What happens up there in Ottawa this weekend is extremely important, because if things don't go smoothly, if they're successful and they have an opportunity to smear everybody by spinning up another BS story, they'll do it. And this is an information war. We're winning, though, in the sense that because of programs like this and other independent media calling out all this crap, drawing the public's attention to all of this stuff, they're acknowledging now that, yeah, you do have the right to protest. You do. But they hate it. They hate you. They hate you. They hate you. You know what the other thing is, though, Brendan?
What's that?
What they don't realize is the people they hate, it's them. They're part of us. They just don't even know it. They don't even know it. They're so pompous, arrogant, and they think they're part of the elite. The mayor, the police chief, these guys sitting at the table, they're not really in control. They think they're in control. They're kind of in control, but they're in the middle. And at the end of the day, when all this stuff comes crumbling down, they're just going to be lumped in with the rest of us.
And I mean, look at interim police chief Bell. He's definitely he's expendable. They don't care that
They're well paid,
Yeah.
right? They're in the couple of $100,000 club,
Yeah.
but they're not the elite. However, they're coming for you this weekend if they can. Remember that.
The police service will have safety and security measures in place.
Safety, safety, safety. They always do it in the name of safety. Blah, 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 blah. Well, safety is one thing, and then there's political motivation and being used as a political tool. And that's what the police service in Ottawa has been doing. They've been letting themselves be used as a
I
political
want to
tool.
thank all the employees of the city partner, and members of the city services, member of the Ottawa Police Service, OPP, RCMP, and other municipal services who have been planning for this event and will be working through the weekend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Now over to Chief Steve Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the media for being here for this briefing on the operational plan we have in place to address the Rolling Thunder event. Throughout the planning of this event, we've worked hard to ensure that everyone knows what they can expect in the days ahead. We want to ensure media have the opportunity to ask questions about our preparation so we can get this information out to our community and out to event participants.
Really? What happened when you phoned there today, Brendan? What did I tell you?
Please email us. We are not accepting any phone calls.
We've heard the concerns from our community. Our plan is designed to address those concerns such as
one sec.
access to residential
And FYI, we have no response from my email.
neighborhoods, noise, improper driving, parking, acts of hate or intolerance, and criminality. Your police service will not tolerate for unsafe or unlawful conditions that could lead to another unlawful protest.
There goes the police dictating what's lawful and what's not lawful.
Prejudging, pre-crimes, profiling. They're profiling a whole group of people. Are they talking about the people going to the Poutine Festival? Nope. They're talking about people who wanted to come down there and pay their respects at the War Memorial. And also say that they'd like freedom restored and the Charter restored and the Constitution restored. Because let's face it, that's really the truth. People going to this thing this weekend, yeah, they're freedom fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But everyone made it very clear that this was not going to turn into, they had no intention of turning this into any kind of a blockade or a permanent protest that would go beyond the day.
The right to lawful and peaceful demonstrations will always be protected by our service. The joint position of the City of Ottawa.
No, it won't be. And it wasn't. When the Freedom Convoy was there. They did not protect the right to protest, nor did police services anywhere in the country or in the United States for that matter, but especially in Canada. No police service protected the right to protest when there were lockdowns and pandemic restrictions in place. Unless it was a particular kind of protest, then that was okay. But if it wasn't a politically accepted kind of protest, then that was illegal. And we saw people charged and even jailed.
And the Ottawa Police is that no motor vehicle-based protests, rallies, or events will be allowed in the designated downtown core. This includes area near and around Parliament Hill and National War Memorial and applies to all demonstrations, rallies, and events. All organizers of the event this weekend have been advised of this. We have created an exclusion zone in the downtown area where no motor vehicles involved in any event, rally, protest, or demonstration are permitted inside that zone. However, the roads are not closed. Allowances will be made for local residents and businesses for traffic. The flow of pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit will continue throughout the operation. City barricades, heavy equipment, or police officers and police vehicles will be at various controlled access points surrounding the vehicle exclusion zone to filter lawful traffic onto and in and around those streets. We've already begun to execute this plan.
Hold
This
up.
weekend, residents will
Please don't come and block up our streets because that's our job. That's what we're doing. We're blocking the streets.
see a large and sustained police and enforcement presence, including bylaw and parking enforcement. We've called in officers from the Ontario Provincial Police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and other municipal police services to execute the plan. We thank all of those services and officers for their contribution. Controlled intersections, new no parking and no stopping areas, road closures, vehicle towing and ticketing will be part of the enforcement strategy to support public safety through the weekend.
And now, with the new provincial legislation in place, they can compel tow truck operators to participate and tow vehicles.
Developed multiple contingencies, including traffic officers and quick response teams, and will be ready to provide an immediate police response to issues throughout the city. Organizers and participants will be held accountable for actions before, during, and after the event. For example, many of the individuals charged in the unlawful protest in February have conditions to not be in Ottawa.
Unlawful, 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 unlawful. They keep using that word. And yet, we'll see how unlawful it was when it goes to court and these things are challenged. I suppose it's unlawful if they just decide it's unlawful because they just kept making up new rules. And with the Emergencies Act in place, at a certain point, then anything they say is illegal because they imposed martial law and declared war on their own people.
Those individuals must respect those conditions set out by the court. If those conditions are breached, those individuals will be arrested and charged. I'll now provide an overview of what we can expect.
So they're, making an assumption that the people coming are the same people that were there during the Freedom Convoy, right? That's who they think is coming. You know what? I'll tell you this. Here's the truth, because I'm not going to lie to people. A lot of the same people are coming. Because even though the organizers have said this is a rally, I say that was a mistake to say that. When they said that it wasn't a protest, that was a mistake to say that. And by saying that, I have real issues with it. Because they're sort of bending the knee, trying to get these guys to say, yeah, okay, it's okay. You can bring your bikes down here. They were trying to get them to do that. But they were never going to do that. They said they would, but they never meant it. And now you've bent the knee. You changed your words. You watered it down. And you can't give them an inch. Because now what do you have? Now you got this. You were going to get this anyway. This panel, this news conference, this language, this confrontational approach. And you know what? There would have been no damn problem this weekend if the cops and the city and the politicians and Trudeau, who is no doubt talking to these guys and is in direct contact and no doubt has influence over everything going on here right now, I guarantee there would have been no problem with these guys coming in on their bikes to do their thing this weekend if they had just taken a light touch with them. It's the cops and the municipality that are in a confrontational position here. They're the ones gearing up for some sort of conflict. And if there is violence again, it's not because these guys went up there looking for trouble. But now the stage is set. The table is set. And the meal that's about to be served is who knows what. Very, very volatile. Because some people, it just is. Now it's all unstable. Because these guys are trying to exert complete control. But that's what they want. I guarantee it.
Expect to see through the weekend. The individuals associated with this event are expected to arrive on Friday, with many of the main activities occurring on Saturday. We're monitoring the numbers, and we know that organizers have said they expect up to 400 motorcycles. We expect that many of these individuals will be staying in downtown hotels. There are other sites these participants may visit, including a rural property on Eagleson Road and a church in Vanier. Any area where these participants gather will see increased police presence and possible traffic delays. The organizers have advised that the participants will depart the city on Sunday. A key feature of Rolling Thunder is a planned motorcycle rally on Saturday. Participants are expected to gather at a location on Coventry Road and wait until a number of participants have arrived before departing. At about 10:45 a.m., they plan to leave the Coventry Road area, riding north along the Vanier Parkway, turning onto Montreal Road, and merging onto Rideau Street. At Rideau Street, they will turn south onto Waller Street and then head onto the Mackenzie King Bridge. After crossing the bridge, they will turn south on Elgin Street and then east on Laurier Avenue West. Finally, they will turn onto Nicholas Street and merge onto Highway 417. There will be participants already in place on foot at the War Memorial for a small ceremony. There will be a heavy police presence in the area, backed up by barricades, heavy equipment, and tow trucks. The entire route has been designated as a no stopping and no parking area. Officers will be there to direct traffic and ensure the participants safely and expeditiously leave the area with as little impact as possible on residents. Throughout the week, I repeated that the focus of our plan is on public safety, maintaining the right to protest, and enforcing all applicable laws. We continue to monitor online and open source commentary relating to all events. Threatening or intimidating behaviors will be addressed with all appropriate enforcement actions. Investigative teams, including our hate crime unit, are in place, focused on gathering evidence and laying charges. The displaying of symbols of hate, like swastikas, will result in charges.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Oh, really? We're still talking about that, eh?
Okay, so do I need to even address that? I guess I do, because it's so incredibly inflammatory and freaking stupid. Seriously? 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 Unfreaking. No, I shouldn't say it's unbelievable.
It's pretty believable.
It's to be expected from these people. There will be, I guarantee it, not one symbol like that brought by any of the people who are actually participating in this thing this weekend. Because that's not who they are. That's not who we are. If anybody does anything like that, they will not be from the Freedom Group or from the Veterans Group. They won't be with those bikers. They won't be with the people who walk into the War Memorial area. He should just take that statement and stick it up his you-know-what. Because just by saying it, you're smearing these people in a pejorative way, and you know it. And it's unfair, and it's not true. It's a lie. It's a lie wrapped up in a safety message. Stick it up your you-know-what, pal, because that's BS.
Yeah,
you know
big
it.
time.
They know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. But you keep saying it. You're a big, fat, frickin' liar. You are disgusting. How dare you say that and smear people, smear good people who are not like that at all. I'm sick to death of it. I'm sick to death of all of you. Liars. Liars. You're terrible human beings. You're divisive. You're full of hate. You want to sit there and talk about hate crimes, monitoring, spying on people through social media and online so you can charge them with hate crimes? Look in the mirror, pal. You're smearing law-abiding, peace-loving, freedom-loving Canadians. middle class, hardworking people from all walks of life, from all races. You don't even freaking know for sure who's coming down there yet. You don't know. We have an idea based on what the organizers have said. We know it's going to be people with bikes and so on. These are not neo-Nazis. This is your next door neighbor. This is your plumber. This is a guy who fought with the Canadian services in other countries or served as a peacekeeper someplace, who supported their country. They're patriotic, freedom-loving Canadians. And you just called them all frickin' neo-Nazis, accusing them indirectly of being disgusting, racist, white supremacist pigs. You suck. How dare you talk about Canadians that way? The people who pay your paycheck, who go to work every day and pay their taxes, so all these SOBs can sit up there and make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. So they can sit at that table in judgment of us. Of us. We pay them. We pay them their wages now, and we'll be paying them for years to come when they get their golden parachute pensions. And they're sitting on the beach, sipping their cocktails with their umbrellas in them, with their feet up, enjoying their cushy pensions that we paid for. Some of us, not me, but some of us with their blood. For our freedom, for their freedom, so they can sit up there and judge people who've done nothing wrong. Not one damn thing. Nothing. And then you bring up, there, we won't allow anyone to come down there with a swastika. Screw you. Liar. Lie, lie, lie. You suck. You don't deserve your job. You should resign. That one statement alone right there disqualifies you, discredits you, dishonors your profession. He's the worst. Absolutely the worst. And that mayor, you suck too, Jim Watson. You left-wing fascio socialist communist scumbag. You suck. You don't represent Canada. You represent the worst of Canada, you prejudicial bigot. That's what they are. They're all bigots. All of them sitting up there in judgment, judging a particular group of people based on prejudicial cliches. Middle class, hardworking people. They don't like you. You're the smelly Walmart people. You're the redneck hicks. You're the toothless backwoods hillbillies. That's us. They hate us. We don't make enough money. We don't speak their kind of words. We're not refined enough. We're not in their class. We're the stinky Canadians. We're the scapegoats. We're the ones they like to demonize. We're the ones that they like to stigmatize. We're the ones they like to point to and say, you should be afraid of those white supremacist blah, blah, blahs. Vote for us. Keep us in power. We'll protect you. And for all you other ones over there, you don't want to be associated with them, right? You have to support us. And then a lot of stupid people believe it. A lot of uninformed people believe it. And a lot of people who are afraid go along with it because they're afraid they might get lumped in with the big bearded biker guy in his black vest. or
No.
a guy like me who sits up here and says things that might not be that popular. Screw all of you. Seriously, screw you all. You don't want to call us back. You don't want to call Brendan back today? Screw you. You should call him back because he's a journalist and he deserves a call back. I didn't call up there. Do you think when CTV calls, they call them back? Guaranteed. I know. I used to work there.
They probably had the chief on line 1, and you had a lot of important things to say there, but I just thought of something. Maybe we'll get lucky, and Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, might show up there with the Banderite banner again.
We'll be right back after this message. While I cool down, I guess.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
So it's our job to hold these guys accountable. That's what we're doing here. This is an information war. They're spreading information in their way by calling people who they don't even know and haven't really done anything wrong, by calling them a bunch of Nazis, by saying that if we see any of you carrying Nazi flags with swastikas on them, we'll arrest you. Won't be tolerated. Screw you. You want to support what we're doing here, go to freedomreporters.com. I will continue to call it like I see it until they come and arrest me too for wrongthink, I guess, or whatever stupid law they decide to make up next. This weekend, we should have somebody on the ground in Ottawa as a reporter helping us cover this weekend. There will be costs associated with that. If you want to support what we're going to do this weekend with regard to the coverage there and beyond that, with our broadcasts here every night, please donate to freedomreporters.com. You can hit the hot link in the YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble descriptions. Go there, leave a donation, even a small donation. Extremely appreciated. We can't do this without your support and your backing. We don't get government money like the mainstream media does. I left there. I'm happy I did. I'll never go back. I'm sure they don't want me now because I'm saying the things that I'm saying, but I don't care. I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to get you closer to the truth with Brendan, with our reporters. And this weekend, we do have somebody going up there who will be feeding us back raw video again so that we can show you that there are no actual swastikas being flown around by anybody going up there with this, whatever you want to call it, rally, protest, demonstration, festival, whatever it is that they decided they wanted to call it. We all know what it is. It's a bunch of people going up there to fight for freedom by exercising their right to free expression and free speech and their right to demonstrate, which is what they should be allowed to do. They're doing it with a lot of restrictions imposed upon them. Fair enough. They have to walk in. Fair enough. I hope that everything goes off smoothly. But as you can see, they're already setting the stage for confrontation. That's not the bikers. That's not the other people going up there to support the bikers or to participate in this event. That's the cops and the municipality setting the stage for confrontation. So I hope they decide to keep it peaceful because the cops, the municipality, the media, we will hold them accountable for what they do. That's what we will be doing. We're going to be watching them, because that's what the true job of the media is supposed to be, to hold public officials accountable for their actions as well as anybody else. We'll be holding everybody accountable. But I'm not really that worried about the bikers or the other people going up there. I'm not worried about the people. I'm worried about the politicians and the cops, because we saw what they did the last time. And damn it, they need to be held accountable for what they did the last time, because they beat the crap out of people. And the violence came from the cops, which is unbelievably disappointing and frustrating. My trust in the cops is done. I used to be all in. Not anymore. Not anymore. Be careful up there this weekend, folks. Tune in here. We will be providing coverage throughout the weekend. And donate to freedomreporters.com to support our work. We need your help to hold these guys accountable for what they do. You see where they're going, and it's not just about following the letter of the law. It's about reading between the lines and looking and seeing what their real agenda is. We're watching you guys because that's our job. We're not spying on you. Not like you spy on us. We're watching.
Yeah,
we're watching you guys. We're going to be watching, along with all the other independent media. And if the mainstream media was doing its damn job properly, they would be holding them accountable too. And the narrative that we got the last time, which was a damn lie, we never would have seen it unfold that way from the media the last time either. But it clearly was a distortion of reality. Don't believe your own eyes is basically what they were saying. And you know, I was thinking, Brendan, too, some of these journalists, I don't think they were ever there. And I don't even know if they were watching any of the live feeds coming out of there. I think some of them just wrote stories and spun narratives repeating what they were told to say.
Well, that's what they do, and yeah, a lot of them weren't even there. It was very evident with a lot of behavior and not only that, these journalists receive marching orders on how to behave, on what questions to ask, and it's all egging on these 5 individuals that are sitting at this table here, which, may I add, they are not signaling their virtue by social distancing and wearing masks, but that's besides the point. The point being, at the end of the day, these people here are being egged on by the media, and it's very dangerous. The media is not the spokesperson for the government. It's the other way around.
Let's play a little bit more of this. Let's see what the police chief has to say.
The targeting of community events will result in a police and enforcement response. We've heard the community and take seriously the concerns raised. You will see that in all elements of our planning. It's also important we set context and expectations. We see a lot of conflict online over this event, much of it from people and groups behind keyboards far away who want to drive discord. I absolutely do not want to see this conflict on our streets this weekend. This is an open and peaceful city. Given the size of our jurisdiction, you will see people on motorcycles and individuals in the downtown core who have absolutely nothing to do with this event. We all need to be respectful of one another. It's my goal that the operation we have in place will reassure our residents and businesses and allow everyone to enjoy our community. We will continue to communicate with media and the public through our regular channels, including our website, social media, and our media relations officers. I will now turn it over to Deputy Chief Ferguson for a statement in French.
There you have it. It's just too confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
The tone could be entirely different. It could be very, like I say, man, they need to be taking a softer touch as far as I'm concerned with the people. This guy needs to be more respectful. He's just being disrespectful. I don't even think he understands that he's being disrespectful.
And he's been that way since the beginning. Like,
Yep.
we don't have a time where he was ever a nice guy, but all of this is inflammatory. And it's designed to wind people up.
Yep.
And not like Rick gets wound up. It's more like wind people up and make them afraid. Oh, there's a bunch of terrible people coming to Ottawa. Quiver in your homes, everybody. Be afraid.
It's also a response.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing here is a response to left-wing, socio-fascistic, communist politicians, many of them at the municipal level,
Yeah.
and other political operatives locally, who are putting pressure on them by expressing concerns. They're the same people who called to file complaints before about the Freedom Truckers. And now they're like, oh, did you hear about Rolling Thunder? Chief, we're very concerned about this. So what are you going to do about it? So they put pressure on him. And so this is his response. But, you know, he's on side. I think even more so than the previous chief was, slowly. And so he's going to take a hard line because they're telling him they want him to take a hard line. And they've spun up this narrative, and he buys into it, and he perpetuates it. And he's politically on side with them. And so he's quite happy, obviously, to let himself be used and to let his police service be used as a political tool here.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of the people going up there are. They're political opponents to the federal government because of all the medical mandates, because of the restrictions on freedoms that we've seen, and the way that the government has stripped freedoms away from people. So even though this is supposed to be a rally about supporting veterans and showing, respect to veterans by going to the War Memorial and laying a wreath, it really is about freedom. That's the truth, and that's what most of the people, I think, going up there this weekend are going for. They know it, these guys sitting at the table, and they know a lot of the people coming are probably a lot of the same people that were up there before for the Freedom Rally or the Freedom Convoy with the truckers. So some of the same people supporting it. We know that. But so be it. They have the right to go and do this.
Yeah.
This is inflammatory what they're doing, though. This is a response to the left side of the political spectrum saying, we don't want these guys in our town. We want them out of here. What are you going to do to shut them down? And the police chief is saying, well, we're going to do all of this. And then he's basically apologizing to them, saying, because he says, we don't have the right to stop them from protesting, which they would if the Emergencies Act was still in place. But we do have all these other tools, and we'll use them all to make life miserable for them if they even step this far over to this side of the line. So they're going to take a zero tolerance approach and look for any opportunity to lay charges, throw people in jail, confiscate vehicles, take away driver's licenses, lay fines. They'll be doing it, and they're ready, and they've got the tow trucks to back it up.
They are ready. If I could take the screen here for just a moment, I would like to show what Ottawa looks like right now.
Yeah.
They got road closures. This is still all closed off. Now this is all closed off. So, this is going to go next tomorrow. This is all going to be closed off. They've closed everything.
Yeah.
And they're the ones inflicting actual tyranny upon their own citizenry with this. And
I have go ahead, Brendan. Go ahead.
I have questions about how effectively you could actually screen everybody coming and going from there. There's people who live in apartment complexes in that area. They'll have to bring their cars in and park them somewhere. They're going to screen the thousands of people who live in this little couple square block radius. Like, you got to be kidding me.
And I think if you have a hotel room booked in the downtown area, I think you will be allowed by law to bring your vehicle down there to park it at the hotel. I think that is allowed. I don't know how they can restrict people from doing that, because once you book a hotel room, that's basically your residence at the time. So I'm not a lawyer. Check with a lawyer. Don't take my word for it, but I think that's probably proper advice. And I think that when you call a hotel, if you're heading down there this weekend, you can call the hotel ahead, and they probably have that information in an accurate way to help you when you call the front desk. And I want to point out that police services do have the right and the ability, and they do block roads to control traffic in many situations, whether it's a fair or a festival or a fire or whatever it might be. I don't even really have much of an issue with that. What I have an issue with is treating different kinds of protests and different groups of people differently. Targeting certain people for political reasons. I have issues with that. Profiling people based on demographics, I have an issue with that. Based on race or their class, their socioeconomic status, or some prejudicial cliched image you have in your head, and you're targeting people based on that because you think that they're a big, burly, bad biker, when in reality, they're a plumber or a carpenter or a store manager or a who knows what. You don't even know. You're jumping to conclusions and you're accusing people of being something that they're not. I've got a problem with that. I don't really have a problem with them controlling roads to keep things open if that's what they want to do. Whatever. It's done in every city, all over the place, all over the world. That's part of what is done.
For a 3-day period of time?
Yeah, it can be. You know, if you've got a big concert on, or even a huge sporting event, you've got a huge group of people coming down for an event, the cops might block off access to control the flow of traffic to keep everything moving properly and keep things safe. I don't have an issue with that. The issues that I had was the organizers watering down their words, calling the thing something that it really wasn't, trying to convince them to let them bring their motorcycles down there. I have a problem with them blocking the roads off only because it's a particular kind of political or politically motivated event, and they don't like the politics or the group that's coming. If it was a different group, I think they would handle it differently, and that's what I've got an issue with. Everybody should be treated the same. Doesn't matter if you're on the left, the right, the top, the bottom, if you're pink, green, orange, gray, purple, whatever, it doesn't matter. Everybody should be treated the same. Equally, not through equity, not equitable treatment, equal treatment, so that everybody's treated the same. That's not what these guys are doing, because they're bigots. They're a bunch of bigots. So, like I said, we're sending somebody up there this weekend to video this event, to send back live feeds to help keep us in the loop on what's going on. We'll be showing you raw feeds from the scene through Ottawa and the downtown area. At the checkpoints, we'll be monitoring the whole thing and holding these guys accountable. That's what our job is, because that's what the media is supposed to do. It's not because, I've got anything personal against any of these guys. I don't like their politics. I don't like what they're saying because it's divisive. It's inflammatory. I don't like it. I don't like that. They really want to keep the peace. Speak peacefully. Speak respectfully. Treat everyone with respect. Don't take this threatening stance. And don't tell me that what they're doing isn't threatening. It clearly is. It's confrontational. They're laying the groundwork and the foundation for a very aggressive, we're not going to put up with your BS response, right? That's the tack that they're taking. And they're bringing in cops, and they're going to have the riot gear ready to go. Whatever, man. Maybe if you tried talking nicely to people, you might find things would just go a little bit more smoothly instead of trying to threaten everybody, because that's what this is. He's up, the police chief and the mayor, they're up there threatening people. Didn't it sound like a threat to you, Brendan?
Yeah, it was all threats.
Yeah. Very threatening and very disappointing.
Yeah, this is very disappointing, but you pointed it out already that they're afraid and that they're kind of grumpy that they have to let people protest.
Yeah. So that's the positive side of this. I was laying in bed thinking about this last night because I read the statement released yesterday in the printed media release from police. And after running it through my head a bunch of times, I realized these guys know that what they're doing is unconstitutional. What the provincial government has done with this new bill, the Keeping Ontario Open Act, that it's massive overreach, that it is unconstitutional. He knows it. The police chief knows it, because what goes on with these kinds of things, in case you're not aware, is the Crown Attorney, every city has a Crown Attorney, right? So the Crown Attorney would be in direct conversation and consultation with these guys before this kind of event unfolds. And the Crown advises these guys. I guarantee you, the Crown has advised these public officials that that piece of legislation is problematic, and that if tested or when tested in court, it may not stand up to scrutiny because it's likely going to be deemed to be unconstitutional. And then if they act inappropriately and overreach, they can be held accountable as police officers and even as senior administrators for setting the stage and enforcing that law that is unconstitutional. And I think there's some degree of liability there. I'm not a lawyer. That's just my layman's interpretation. But I know that the Crown will have been advising heading into this and what they can and can't do, what's lawful, not lawful currently, because the Emergencies Act isn't there, but this new legislation is. That being said, the legislation is still there, and they will make use of it. And they'll be making use of all these other tools this weekend to get the outcome that they want. Not just from a safety point of view. They keep using the word safety, but they want a political outcome here as well. And they're allowing themselves to be manipulated by the politicians in that regard. So that's my take on it. I hope I was clear enough on that so that I wasn't confusing people or saying things that might be misinterpreted. I don't want to be misunderstood.
In the words of Joe Biden, you're very clear. And please be sure to also give this video a thumbs up. Help us defeat the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. Donations can be made at freedomreporters.com. We do have a link in the description below. As Rick said, we are going to be having people out in the field in Ottawa this weekend. So help us cover some expenses, and we really appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who has donated so far. It means the world to us, and it really is giving us the support we need to do the work we are doing here, producing these long-form broadcasts every night between 6 and 9 p.m., and to also, when appropriate, to send reporters out into the field, to send back live video feeds, and to conduct on-scene reports back to us during these broadcasts and other emergency broadcasts, which we do from time to time when we have breaking news to report on and cover. So thank you so much for everything that has been donated so far, and to everybody who has supported us just by being on the broadcast and participating, commenting in the comments section, and calling in when we have the call-in feature going as well, and we're fielding phone calls from people. Thank you to everyone. You are all part of the Maverick family, and you're all Maverick Top Guns, real freedom fighters, warriors for the cause, every one of you. And we're surrounded by really good people, Brendan. We truly are.
Absolutely. We're very blessed with what we have done, and all more to come.
And I can say that over the past 2.5, 3 years, since all of this madness really began, we really have found a lot of new friends, a new community. And I think that we've found the best of the best Canadians and the best U.S. citizens who have joined us here on the Maverick News Channel, and also just new friends that we've met in person. And we're just part of a bigger community, the best of everything that our country has to offer. I find it in every single one of them. I really do. The best people. Absolutely.
That's right. I mean, I would have never met you if it wasn't for this crazy mess. So,
just a constant. It really is. You know, it's like a tribe, right? But there's so much love, and there's so much community and support, and the people around us. You know, we have each other's backs, and it's just and it's all positive. And we saw that even with the Freedom Convoy, with the people dancing and the Canadian flags flowing and the people lining the highways and the overpasses. It was a national moment, an outpouring of pride. And we're going to see more of that again this weekend, I'm sure. And I pray I pray that everything stays peaceful up there. I hope that my worst fears are not realized. I hope that everything just goes really well, and that all of this that I'm saying tonight is for nothing. If you know what I mean. I just don't want to see anybody. I don't want anybody arrested. I don't want anybody hurt. I don't want any cops hurt. I don't want anything to go wrong. I just want it all to go very smoothly so that everybody comes home safe and sound, and that's the end of that. And then we move on to another day, and we keep fighting for freedom in a peaceful, loving Canadian way. That's what I'm hoping for. And I love the people in Britain too.
Yes, we do have a significant UK crowd that comes on. So, yeah, Miss Jensky, we do love UK. We're cut from the same cloth, share the same queen. Even more than that.
So there you go, folks. That's the situation right now as we get ready to roll into the weekend. We'll be monitoring rolling thunder as it heads into Ottawa. That's the position the municipality and the police are taking. We know where things are at with the bikers. You know, and I'm not here. I don't pull punches, as you know. And I've held the organizer. I've held his feet to the fire here on the broadcast to some degree as well, for other reasons. And I hope that I was fair. But anything I said was said out of concern for everyone's welfare and well-being, and also for the well-being of the entire freedom movement. Because we've come a long way, and we don't want any setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want, and when I say that, what I mean is we don't want to give the people on the anti-freedom side any ammunition, anything they can use against the freedom movement. We don't want that. Can't have it. You all know how to conduct yourselves, because again, you're the best of the best of the best Canadians out there, and the world is watching. And you've inspired the People's Convoy in the U.S. as well. And we have James Topp walking across the country, doing positive things on his side. There's so much positive stuff going on, and we just can't allow those guys to take it away from us. We can't let them take our country. Can't let them take our freedom. We can't let them smear people. That we can't let them smear freedom-loving, patriotic Canadians as a bunch of racist Nazi thugs, because we're not. We're absolutely not. And it's wrong of them to do it. Stand up. Be peaceful. Do what you always do, and everything will be fine. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of...
take care of yourselves and take care of each other this weekend.
Speaking of all-Canadian hero James Topp, we have not done a check-in on him in some time. Maybe we should.
Absolutely. Let's get it done. Let's bring up his website. Let's bring up the map. Let's find out where James is tonight. Let's get a clip rolling here with James Topp. James Topp, of course, Canadian veteran, marching across Canada from Vancouver to Ottawa to the War Memorial. I don't think he'll be there this weekend. He still hasn't made it that far. But that's his ultimate destination. And along the way, he's spreading peace, love, understanding, a message of unity to bring Canadians together, and a message, most importantly, of freedom. He's out there fighting for freedom because he also has seen and understands that the country is under attack, that there are forces out there trying, and they have taken our freedom away. He's trying to restore that freedom and bring Canadians together under the freedom umbrella in a peaceful, loving Canadian way. He is, in my view, I think Brendan agrees, he is a national hero. And there he is, the man himself, James Topp.
So do you think when he rolls into town, they'll have a walking exclusion zone?
I don't know, Brendan, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit. And yet this is a guy who, with every step, he's building a wave of love across the country. This guy is just full of Canadian pride. And yet I wouldn't be surprised at all if they had people in riot gear there waiting for him when he shows up in Ottawa at the War Memorial to pay his respects. I mean, to me, this guy's like a Terry Fox. He's just a slightly different message, right? Terry Fox was fighting cancer. He's fighting for freedom. But to me, he's a Canadian hero too. Right? Like, that's what he represents to me, and only positive things. There's nothing negative. There's not one negative vibe coming from James Topp. And yet he'll be treated, I'm pretty sure, when he gets to Ottawa, with a heavy degree of scrutiny by the people who were sitting at that table in the news conference that we saw just a few minutes ago.
I'll let the clip roll.
Good morning, everyone. It's April 28th, day 68, here in just outside of Virden, Manitoba. We're heading towards Brandon today, and looks like rain, but it's a little less windy and a little less cold. So I'm prepared for a little rain. It can't rain all the time, right? So there's a little event we're going to have planned in Winnipeg in the next week or so. So keep your eyes open, and we'll put a poster up so that everybody in the Winnipeg area will find out about it and be able to attend if they so choose to. Look forward to seeing you on the road, and if you do stop to say hello, please be careful on the highway.
Phenomenal.
So there's James Topp. And yeah, a lot of people are joining him as he makes his way along the route from Vancouver to the War Memorial in Ottawa. Some people meeting him on the highway and then marching with him for a distance because they're finding that he's inspiring. Great positive message. And I will endeavor to get James Topp back on here for another live interview, hopefully within the next week, because he's already in Manitoba. That means he'll be getting into Ontario pretty soon.
Yes.
It's unbelievable the progress that he's made. He's covering anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers a day on foot every single day. It's a grueling trip.
Yes, it is very grueling. Okay, so here he is. He's just about to Brandon. And he's just starting in Manitoba. But look, he's crossed the Rocky Mountains. He made it through the prairies, going into Manitoba, and then he'll be hitting Ontario, and then Ontario it'll be Ottawa. He'll have some tough country coming into Ontario. It's quite rocky terrain there. There's a lot of hills. But hey, it won't be as hard as going through the Canadian Rockies. So if he can handle the Rockies, he could definitely handle that.
Every inch of it covered on foot. And he's had to endure snow, rain, all the different weather. And in the next couple of weeks, the weather's going to start to warm up. And when he gets into Ontario, probably black flies, maybe mosquitoes, depends on how the weather is, I guess. But man, what a feat.
Yeah.
Really. Unbelievable. I have huge respect for him. Wish him all the best. And we will be checking in with him, I think probably sometime this week, to get him back on the show so that he can talk to us as he did the last time. He spoke to us right from the road. The technology today is amazing. Able to do these live hits right from right, on the highway while he's marching. And we had him on probably for a good half an hour
Yeah.
chatting the last time. And he's
Yeah.
just a great guy and great cause.
Cares about his team. He's working well with them, and
really, he does need support, and a lot of the support that people are providing is coming in the form of accommodations. When he rolls into a town, they sometimes put him up in a house or feed him and his people. But if you want to find out more about James Topp, you can go to, I believe we have, what's the Canada Marches?
yeah, CanadaMarches.ca.
CanadaMarches.ca. There's the website URL on the bottom. There's a picture of the website there. You can find out more about James, more about his cause, find out exactly where he is. They have the live tracker right on their website. Every once in a while, we give you an update here on the Maverick News channel as well, but you can go there 24/7 and get an update on James at any time, and you can find out how you can support him in what he's doing. And what a great Canadian, great patriot.
Yeah, all around Canadian hero, big time.
And you know where you don't hear about him? On the mainstream media. They're basically ignoring him, which sucks.
It does.
It sucks.
It's a shame. It really is. But would we really be surprised by that?
No, but he'll be on here again. That's what we do here. We bring you the news the other guys don't want to show you.
That's very important. I mean, it is valuable. Yeah, I mean, this, to give perspective on that, CBC has not talked about James Topp since Valentine's Day of this year, February 14th, 2022, and the whole thing was to smear him. It's all about smearing him because he did not want to participate in his employers' mandates.
Mm-hmm.
So what an interesting turn of events, really.
Yeah. Just because he didn't want to get the thing on the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So of course the mainstream media makes him out to be a conspiracy nut job. And what's he really doing? He's trying to bring Canadians together. But they don't want that. They want to divide us. That's where they get their power. Divide and conquer. That's the true agenda. Or the tool that they use, really, to achieve their political ends, right?
Yeah.
It's terrible. And again, how dare they do that to him? He doesn't deserve that. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Look at what he's doing, the sacrifice he's making, the risks he's taking. It's dangerous out there.
And he's not even going to be able to fly back.
Right.
Of our oppressive government mandates.
Completely discriminatory. Medical bigotry. That's what it is. At least the people enforcing it are medical bigots because they believe the propaganda. The government, to them, is just a tool about compliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at what they're doing to him. Look what they're doing to everybody.
Well, I really hope Canada has some good opportunities to awaken with this, and I hope that James Topp is going to elicit a different response. And you know something, with what's going to be happening in Ottawa this weekend, if this goes horribly, this could put James Topp in danger. No doubt.
In what sense, Brendan?
Well, if things go badly this weekend, it could make things dangerous if he shows up in Ottawa. So you take the police, and we have a bunch of people. They go and kick the hornet's nest in Ottawa this weekend. Do you think they're just going to let James Topp go anywhere near Ottawa?
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, we already kind of addressed that, right? Like, I don't know what kind of reception he'll get. I'm not sure that I doubt that it's going to be as positive and as festive as it should be, because I think the authorities will give him much the same kind of treatment that we're seeing this weekend, which is completely inappropriate. They should be having a ticker tape parade for James Topp when he comes down the road in front of the Parliament buildings and heads over to the War Memorial. They should give that guy the biggest welcome and the biggest Canadian hug. Ottawa should embrace him with open arms and then give him a great big giant Canadian hug when he gets to town. And the entire nation should stand behind him. And here's the thing. The Prime Minister could make that happen. The Premier could help to make that happen. The police chief, the mayor of Ottawa could all stand up and say, hey, James, thank you. Hey, Canadians, here's a great Canadian. Let's support this man. He's trying to bring us together. We may not all agree on all these different things, but we are all Canadians. And we're all free. We should celebrate our freedom with James Topp, who's here to honor the people who sacrificed for our freedom, which we used to have. And what would be wrong with that? Why the heck not? Why not? Why not approach it from that perspective? But that's not what they're doing. They won't come out and say it that way, will they? I'll be very, very surprised if you see the police chief and the mayor and all those people at another news conference sitting at that same table saying positive things about James Topp in a few weeks when he arrives in Ottawa. I don't think that's the tone they'll be taking at all.
It just occurred to me that Ontario might even have a whole new government by that point.
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the election is coming up. And tomorrow night, I think we have another New Blue candidate, New Blue Party of Ontario candidate coming on to talk to us. So make sure you tune in for that. That should be another good conversation. We also, I think we have Derek Sloan and Rick Nichols. Derek Sloan is the leader of the Ontario Party, and Rick Nichols is the deputy leader of the Ontario Party. I believe we have an interview. I know it's tentatively set up for next Wednesday. So they'll join us on the program next Wednesday. So we have a lot of questions to kick around with those guys. I'm really excited about that. We haven't had Derek Sloan on the program before, and I am eager to talk to him. And we've had a lot of New Blue candidates on. We'd like to provide some balance and be fair here. So we want to give time to as many different candidates and parties as we can. And I'll even let the NDP come on. That would be a fiery debate. Like, I'll be fair. I will absolutely be fair. If anybody is brave enough from any of those other parties to come on, we can have a great discussion back and forth. It'll be civil, I promise, and I will be fair. But I'm transparent. You know where I'm coming from on all of this stuff. But we're also always fair.
You see that's if you are one of those NDP or liberal politicians, the ball would be in your court, because I mean everything we do and everything we talk about is publicly listed. You can see what we do, but meanwhile we would know next to nothing about you. So just saying.
We have lots of work to do. We have some great guests coming on in the next week. And this weekend, it's a big one. It is. I didn't even really want to get into it too much. I didn't think it would be something that would blow up into something as big as this. When I first heard about it, I thought it would just be bikers going up, lay the wreath, do their thing. No big deal. It's the municipality and the cops that have, and the government, the Trudeau
I'm sorry.
government that has turned
really
this
have
into
to.
a thing.
I really have to address it. Somebody says Epoch Catharis asks, "What if it's Jagmeet Singh?"
Bring them on. Yeah, bring him on. I don't think he gets nearly enough airtime, especially the kind of airtime we would give him, because I would absolutely hold his feet to the fire on a lot of issues. Be fair. I'll be respectful. We can have a great conversation, a good debate. I don't see the world the way he does at all, but he's welcome to come on at any time, and we'll have a great conversation. Maybe we'll, you know what? And then maybe we would come away with a better understanding of each other. And that would be a really good thing, right? Because we all have to get along. We all have to live together. And we need to find common ground wherever we can. That's what being Canadian is truly all about. Not about shutting people down and canceling people. It's about tolerance. And I'm quite happy to have any of them on, from the NDP on the program. And I'll tell you this, Brendan, I have good friends who come from that political aisle or that lane.
Yes, actually.
The truth is, though, most of them have left the NDP and they've joined other parties now because they can't relate to where the NDP has gone. So I have a lot of friends who are former New Democrats, former NDP people, and a few people who still are, right?
Well, maybe it seems to me like you have all these connections. You call them and ask them on this show.
Sure.
I don't know any of these people.
I've invited some on.
Yeah. They saw the Rick rant. They didn't want to enter the arena.
I think they're afraid.
Yeah.
That is one thing about people on that side is they don't like to be challenged.
No,
that much. They really don't.
They'll have a debate shut down way before they'll ever enter one.
Yeah.
Typically how it goes.
I knew years ago when the NDP and people on that side, when they didn't have as much political power, but I saw when I was going to news events, they were always the ones that wanted to exercise censorship. They sometimes would not let certain reporters in to their news events. I never saw that on the Conservative side. You see it now because people see it now because the Conservatives aren't really Conservatives anymore. But I never saw journalists excluded from events on the Conservative side, but I saw it all the time on the other side. If they knew that a reporter had a particular political ideological slant, or if they had done reports that they didn't like, not coming in, not getting credentials, not letting them in, cancel them. And that was years and years and years ago. So I was well aware of where they come from on that. That's partly what makes them dangerous, because they sit there and say, oh, you can't trample on our rights to free speech when they don't have the power. But as soon as they get the power, then they want to shut the other guys down so that they never get to have a voice again. That's the Achilles heel of a free, open society where free speech is allowed to flourish. If you let your political opponents speak and then they get power and they shut you down, then you don't have your voice anymore. You see how it works or doesn't work for people on the freedom side? We're vulnerable that way. So our strength is our weakness.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a problem. And there's no easy solution other than to just stay true to your values, I guess, and hope that common sense and a love of freedom prevails. But if it's ever gone, once we lose it, and we have largely, it's probably not coming back. It's not the natural state of things for people to live in a free and democratic society. It's very unusual. It's an aberration. And that's why we need to take the country back. That's what this weekend is, honestly. Let's be honest. That's what this weekend is about for most of the people going up there this weekend. It's about peace, love, freedom, democracy, honoring veterans, being respectful. That's what it's about for most of those people, and getting our country back. And they're doing that by paying respects to the veterans at the War Memorial. So my message to all of you is stay safe this weekend in the nation's capital. And to all of you, take care of each other, have each other's backs. Godspeed to all of you. We're with you in spirit. I have my concerns, but it's not about you guys. It's not even about the organizer. You know where my concerns lie. Godspeed.
And it's been another great show, everybody. Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. Please all remember, if you are able to help us out by contributing at freedomreporters.com, freedomreporters.com. We also have a link in the description below this video. You can also click there. It'll help get you there really quick. And I absolutely love, there's quite a few Mavericks out there reminding people to like and subscribe throughout the whole evening. So that's awesome. Anne, I know you're one of them, and a couple other people absolutely love it. Please make sure that you hit the like and like button, as it does help us defeat the algorithm. And then last but not least, we always love to invite more Mavericks into our family. So please, if you haven't before, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell button to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. I'm your co-host, Brendan Kennedy with Maverick News, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And I'm Rick Walker. You're watching the Maverick News Channel. We are the Freedom Reporters. We are the antivirus program for your mind. If you're heading out tomorrow, you're going to be on the highway. Drive safe on your way to Ottawa. Everyone, take care of each other. From everybody here, peace and love. Catch you tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on the Maverick News Channel.